In WWE, we've had a summer of seismic shifts, followed by an autumn of alluring augmentation. As we enter the winter of much more content, let's take a look back at the past few months of Titan terraforming, courtesy of WWE's new head of creative, Triple H. Now, whilst Levesque seemed to want to take the transition slow and steady, it's actually been far from that. The printer ink wasn't even dry on his new business cards when he was calling dismissed stars back to WWE. Dakota Kai, Karrion Kross and Scarlett, Dexter Lumis, Hit Row and Johnny Gargano had welcome returns within the first few weeks of Levesque's incumbency. They'd soon be joined by more rebounded wrestlers like Candice LeRae, who had left WWE of their own accord with no real plans to return, Braun Strowman, Emma, Mia Yim, and the Good Brothers, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, the latter of which was still a champion in New Japan Pro Wrestling when he took the call from Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and we'll give you a little bit more on that in a bit. Now, of course, the big head turner of Hunter's higher backs took us on a journey, metaphorically and almost literally, down a rabbit hole before their reveal. Bray Wyatt's QR code breadcrumb trail to Extreme Rules captured the imagination of fans, and the reaction when Wyndham peeked through the haunted door with lantern in hand shook the Wells Fargo Center. The guy that Vince McMahon didn't get was back, with the promise of creative absolution signed off by someone who very much did get him. This was what made a lot of these re-signings so exciting. See, for some, their first trip round the WWE was one they weren't steering, but one they would be accosted for if, for whatever reason, they didn't stick the landing. Now, it's not just the wrestlers that are coming back to fan ovations. You see, Triple H and his team managed to make the decision to scrap our annual Which T-shirt is Best competition, better known as Survivor Series, in favour of bringing War Games to the main roster for the very first time ever, something that his predecessors weren't a big fan of doing. After all, why give any credit to something not made in WWE? Am I right, pal? Well, it led to the most viewed Survivor Series on record, according to internal figures, with the highest gate ever in Boston and the highest gate ever for a Survivor Series. So maybe there was something to that non-WWE thing, pal. Triple H is a child of the territorial era of professional wrestling. And whether it's the two-ring match Beyond or whether it's NXT's revamp of Halloween Havoc, he's got a lot of time and a lot of love for some of those non-WWE IPs, which I'm sure we're only scratching the surface of. Now, this doesn't stop at the in-ring talent when it comes to big returns and shocking movements. From the moment that Triple H assumed the gorilla position, you could hear on commentary the pressure to avoid certain words and moments has been superseded by encouragements to articulate with autonomy. Wrestling isn't a dirty word anymore. People aren't flogged for daring to look beyond Titan Towers to find storyline notes. Carl Anderson being acknowledged on screen as never openweight champion. Gunther's WXW and Progress legacy being recognized. Finn Balor and AJ Styles' lineage in New Japan Pro Wrestling as part of the Bullet Club. Hearing these things on commentary, it still feels a bit like the first time you heard your church-going Auntie Belinda drop the F-bomb over Christmas dinner. I mean, soon it won't. Soon it'll just become part of the WWE experience. But you know what? For now, it feels naughty. It feels quite exciting. The big wide world beyond World Wrestling Entertainment isn't just there to be discussed, though. You see, since Triple H took office, we've seen and heard rumours of WWE reaching hands across the planet to shake hands and lock up with other promotions. The Good Brothers have dates in the diary with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which they will honour as WWE superstars. Shinsuke Nakamura will compete against the Great Muta for Pro Wrestling Noah, which is a company whose name sounds like Triple H declining a match. Two powerful moves that feel like the start of something big for 2023. In press conferences, WWE have always used that line, "We're open for business." Triple H and the team that he is working with are leading the charge on actually putting some meaning behind those words and bringing them to life. Away from around the wrestling world and back in Stamford, Triple H is building a unit of storytellers with a fresh outlook. Vince McMahon's final few years in charge have primarily focused on creating those big moments at the behest of incubating tomorrow's WrestleMania main eventers. On many occasions, we'd hear stories of Vinnie Mac pumping the brakes on a 2-week-old storyline because, I don't know, he had a headache or he was hungry or he didn't like the colour of somebody's jacket or he sneezed. Repetitive, directionless rivalries became pretty commonplace. And people got as invested in wrestling wars as Vince was. If Vince wasn't bothered, then why would we be? That Brock Lesnar emergency glass had been smashed so many times, the rubber on the physical button is peeling away. Brock Lesnar cannot be the broken glass option anymore. Paul Levesque has a solution, and it's a wild one, so sit down for this one. Long-term storytelling and character building. Roadmaps that don't just stop at the first petrol station and then turn around. And to that end, Trips has made one key hiring. And this transformative talent doesn't have a finishing move nor entrance music. Rob Fee, a former writer for Marvel, has been brought in as a director of long-time creative. It's literally his job to make wrestling adventures for fans to follow that capture wholeheartedly and complete decisively. Rob had one heck of a trial period as well. He worked with Bray Wyatt on his magical mystery tour that culminated at Extreme Rules. I think it's fair to say, based on that remit, he passed his probation with flying colours. But the fact that we now have somebody in place whose job it is to tell stories across a period of time, that's already a marked improvement. We all know, though, with wrestling, the best laid plans can often go awry. The fans will tell you if they're having a good time, and believe me, they do. Previous administrations will plough on regardless, though, knowing that, hey, we know what the people want. However, there's a vibe in Tripp's first few months in the hot seat that plough-on plan isn't the plan anymore. Sami Zayn's incredible Bloodline connection, for example, according to reports, has been extended because the audience were just so gosh darn into it. What was supposed to be just a few months of silliness has become WWE's most anticipated story arc. One may say that it's the best work they've done in a long time, and one that we could actually end up seeing Sami Zayn legitimately headlining a premium live event with. You can't let the crowd control all the narrative, but you gotta be flexible enough to recognize when they're feeling oozy. The crowd vibes have been strong, as have the backstage ones. Fightful Select recently reported the backstage morale has improved significantly. They say almost everyone that goes to work is having much more fun. It's an easier going environment compared to the Vince McMahon era. Another noted to Fightful, there are still some talents that aren't being used effectively, but it's a vast improvement over where things were in the summer. The creative input and the ability to improvise more was also touted. And there have been some issues about some talent not being used properly, but on the whole, it's been pretty progressive. And this is just a taste of how WWE's on-screen offering has terraformed under Terra Rising's creative watch. There is more to come as well. Paul Levesque has plans to restock the women's division with TV-ready stars. A few names already being circulated for a comeback at the time that this video is being recorded. The way things move, actually, flippin' heck, they could have popped up in the space between the recording and the uploading. Trips is also casting fresh eyes across the premium live event offerings for 2023, which may see long-standing events like Hell in a Cell and TLC get replaced, allowing beloved gimmicks to become more a clinic. When a rivalry requires Satan's playground, they can order it, as opposed to hoping that the two superstars' particular grievance reaches a natural crescendo in a certain month. There is conversations about new major markets being cracked, such as a stadium show in India early on in 2023, and maybe another big UK bash for good measure. I mean, WWE have to come back to the UK. Triple H in particular has to come back to the UK. Here he is tucking into a Greg's. Get yourself a Newcastle, Triple H, man. Steak bake, Nuki Brune, and a curry bag of chowder waiting for your pet. Who else could boomerang across the business in the months to come? Well, Sasha Banks and Naomi, whilst the optics point to their time in the E-Machine being done, aren't completely out of the question for a comeback. Their big issue was with creative, which is a department that has completely feng shuied since they left the women's tag titles with John Laurinaitis. At time of recording, Eric Young has been written off Impact Television with a shiv, and should he survive being brutally killed to death, a WWE return is on the cards for him as well. There is plenty who had a rough ride under Vince & Co., who Triple H would no doubt work some magic with. Now, also, at the time I'm recording this video, William Regal is a name on the lips of wrestling fans. His AEW deal, according to reports, will see him staying near Tony Khan for a little while longer. But as a long-standing friend and confidant of Paul Levesque, a blue bloodline may be thicker than water, and he could be with WWE even sooner. Whatever, and whoever, and wherever, and however the WWE changes in 2023, one thing is for sure: the game has begun, and it's only getting bigger. Stay safe, and love you, bye.